Hello everyone, in this video I want to talk about this kind of emerger flies. For me these are dry flies because I can see them on the surface, but they are transitional phase of mayflies, caddisflies, or whatever flies that's partially submerged. Uh, what I like about these flies is that they definitely represent something that's vulnerable, that's something that fish recognizes as a very easy meal. So let's talk about options. First and maybe basic one would be dubbed body with maybe peacock thorax, some dubbed head or not dubbed head, it's up to you, partridge legs or no partridge legs, but yeah, just bubble loop and that's it. Then you can just play with it, and for extra durability you may add a little bit of tag over here. So just fold back that little CDC tip and tie it in. That's another one. You can maybe add some longer legs, or what I think it's pretty a good option is again loop without tags or with tags, but with added genetic hackle for the legs. They will provide some extra support for this kind of flies without affecting too much profile of the fly, so it won't ride high. You just cut hackle from below. Maybe one of my favorite variations of this kind of flies is this. We have full bubble here and we have almost full wing here. So this tag, I leave it a little bit longer. And here you utilize the whole CDC if the CDC is adequate compared to the hook size. If you're using like huge CDC feather, obviously you will have more waste. But if your CDC is quite adequate compared to the size of the hook, then your waste will be minimal. So that's something to consider. Obviously, some partridge here for the legs. Very interesting body, as you can see. And let's go. For these kind of flies, you will need very basic materials. One of my favorites, and you can see that in one of the video I made, UTC body tricks, before I did it I think few years ago, is with Anthra thread in 70 denier, which is quite universal for those kind of flies, relatively small flies. You can have it in a couple of colors. What I don't recommend is using the same thread for the ribs. What I like to use is some kind of poly floss. So those flosses that are kind of poly yarn or some, they don't soak in, they don't blend in. Lighter colors tend to blend in with darker colors from below. So if you're using something that's almost the same, the result will be like this. Sorry, yeah, the same material. So if you're using UTC with UTC, the result will be barely visible, as you can see here. But if you're using stuff that doesn't change its color, as this floss over here, then it's going to be good. There's also, I'm using something that's more available for you. This is from China. I doubt it's available in Europe or US. And Thick Stream is very good, and it has this micro floss that's like super thin, very easy to work with, and it doesn't change color. This one is in fluo, meaning that it reacts with UV light. Another material to consider, I almost forgot about it, is super glue with this label 502. You have to test it before you start dyeing with it. Test it in terms of varnishing body, leave it to dry, and after maybe a couple of minutes it will be dry, but better to leave it for maybe an hour or two until it dries completely, and then submerge hook in the water and tomorrow see the result. If the hook turned white, don't use it, because even with the same this 502 mark, sometimes they turn white, sometimes they don't, so you want to make sure that your glue is not turning white. This one is obviously good. Again, I took it in China. So what I like to start with is hook that's horizontal in the vise, and this is the MCO 108 SPBL. I'm starting, this is the bend. So I like to start maybe one hook eye length behind, couple of turns just to start the fly in a regular fashion. Cut off the excess. Now you don't need to be too concerned about how many reps you have here because everything will be super protected by varnish. Now you can do just a trap wrap here, and from behind just sneak under this tag and this ribbing material and pull it out until it's aligned with the first wrap of your red thread, and the red thread is UTC. So with flat thread, and this is very important, you do your fly whole time, just do it with flat thread, meaning that you have to counterclockwise to compensate for building your fly. So as you can see, it's flat because it's wide over here, so it's easy to build taper, it's easy to build smooth underbody, it's easy to cover the whole hook shank without too much wraps. You stop here, counter spin the bobbin holder again, make sure it's flat, and then go backwards. This time you want to stop a little bit before your previous wrap, so just a little bit here. Counter spin couple of times with flat thread, go back. Now here you don't want to stop at the end of it. Again, one rep shy. So you're building not a rugby ball shape, but more or less taper from both sides. And then here you can stop a little bit earlier, go back, and go all the way here. Now, if you have rotational vise, you can use it and make your ribbing material. If you don't have it, well, just wrap it conventional way as you would do any fly. You can do it like this, or you can do it like this. It's up to you. What I would encourage you to do is next thing. Remove those wraps because they're unnecessary. I'll tilt the hook so you can see. I like to catch this material sideways. 1, 2 loose wraps, and then I'll just cinch on it, and with flat thread I'll go 1, 2 wraps behind. And as you can see, I have taper built in without any abrupt jumps up and down. Now I'll pull on the thread, on this fluid thread, pull, and then just cut with scissors, meaning that I don't have those stubs sticking out too much. Now, flat thread makes whip finishing much easier. You want to whip finish with flat thread 1, 2, sometimes even 3. Hide everything. Everything is smooth without any sudden drop-offs in silhouette, and it's going to help you later with tying in all the materials in. The reason why quad ribs on the side, it's not important with these ribs because they get flattened, but with some more stiff materials you want to build a profile that's a little bit more flat when you look at it like this, so lateral flat and not the vertical. It will make more flat base for all the materials that are coming on the top of your hook shank, meaning that they're less likely to rotate. Now I'm going to use the the super glue. You just need tiny little drop of it. As you can see, this is too much, so I'll take away. Just move it along the hook shank. If you need more, just add a little bit more. And good thing about this, because it doesn't have tails, so the tails will not soak in, I will clean the needle and then remove all the excess I don't need, because I want those ribs to show their texture around. You can double the ribs if you want more more texture. And let me show you how it looks when you have thicker ribs. So as you can see here, this is actually with the body quill material from the Extreme again. So I doubled it, twisted it together, and yeah, that's it. Then let me just remove this and show you some bodies that are done with combinations of threads. So yellow and red UTC, yellow floss for the ribs. I was just mentioning this one with the body quill from Extreme. Let me show you. No, sorry, from Vivas. This is orange one, but obviously it will change color a little bit, so it's not super screaming, but under UV light it will be screaming. Something, let's say yellow with green thread, just a subtle difference. One of my favorites is green base and yellow ribs. Superb looking flies. You can do this for perdigon style flies as well, or wet flies or whatever. Again, your imagination is the limit. Now something with the fluo green ribs. Doesn't look too screaming from now, but like if you put UV light on it, it looks extra contrasty. Now let's proceed with one of these already dried bodies. Now instead of having horizontal, you can do it like this, so this band will be horizontal here, so your thread doesn't slip down. At this point I will change thread to Nano Silk by Semperfly. I always get that name wrong. It's slippery, so because I like to cinch on it a lot when I'm tying CDC. What you can do now, take super tiny drop of this super glue. No need to wait, just let it soak around here. Yep, that's it. After a second or two it's ready. If you have very bad feathers, I'm talking about this, bent sideways and wiggled, squiggled, whatever, take your cutler, let water boil, and when the steam is still going out, put those feathers above the steam for 1 or 2 seconds and they will, like magic, return to the previous state that was on the bird. Now what you want a feather that has this kind of triangular shape to it, because most of these barbs from the bottom part will actually align with the tip barbs, so you will be able to take and use most of the CDC. What I like to do it is like just align the tips of your CDC. So it's good to use feathers that are pretty similar or same in size, as you can see here. So stroke those barbs towards the tips, stroke them, and here, as you can see, I have pretty narrow left over here. So what I want to do is I have 1, 2 wraps. See this here? I'm checking out that like it's more or less 2 lengths of the hook, but it's something that's very easy to check if the length of your CDC is good. And then I'm catching everything here. To check if my desired length is good enough, I'll just pull, create a bubble as I want it to be, more or less, and then see how much excess I have left for the tag, and that's just about right size. I'll cut this close and relatively tapered because I want to cover those buttons. And yeah, look at the CDC waist you have. This is your CDC waist. That's what I was talking about. So now I want to cover those ends, and because it's tapered, it's very easy to cover. And that's it. You can choose your preferred dubbing for this purpose, but I will use kapok dubbing, sorry. And to make it a little bit contrasty, I'll just use this kind of gray color, dark gray color. Just go back with everything. Now when you're dubbing kapok or any other dubbing, it's kind of essential to use as little material as possible. Place it against the thread, make a dubbing noodle. And with kapok it's ridiculous like how thin dubbing noodle can be created. And for this instance, it's actually something that makes your life much easier. And I will show you in a second why. So I'm creating relatively thin and compact dubbing noodle because you want your noodle to behave more or less like a thread. When I say like a thread, you want to forget that there is dubbing on your noodle, on your thread, sorry. Yeah, I think this is probably more than I need. But I want to make a super compact noodle. For the legs, I will use some of these larger feathers, partridge feathers, and they're quite easy to work with because I'm going to take just kind of slips of it. So I like to use those marked ones. It doesn't have to be symmetrical this time. For the first start, I will use a couple of reps here just to make thorax. I'll go back and catch one rep over the CDC over here, and now I want to make this dubbing noodle a little bit more compact, and I want to twist the thread in a counterclockwise, twist my bobbin holder in a counterclockwise direction. While it's still spinning, I did it gently. While it's still spinning, I'll just take away several barbs. It's good if you have those good feathers to make it symmetrical, like from one and another side, but I like to use those symmetrical feathers for other purposes. So I'll align this with body, so it's not horizontal, it's like aligned with hook shank. I'll hold it, and because this is literally behaving like a thread, as you can see, it's jumping there, like 1, 2 turns, and I didn't go forward, I went backwards. Now I have to do the same thing from the other side, and I'll try to guess and get the same amount of barbs. Twist the bobbin holder again, get those barbs, measure the length. Okay, looks okay. Again, align it with hook shank and check is everything okay. I think I should just pull it out slightly, and that's it. One more wrap. Now use sharp scissors for this. You have just few reps to hold your barbs, but you don't have to go close because these buttons will actually secure everything even more when you cover them with dubbing. So now I'll use a little bit more dubbing to cover everything. I thought it's gonna be enough, but it isn't. But again, use little amounts so you can control the process a little bit better. This is what you want. Now hold everything, even though we are not going to rotate over there. Create thorax as you want it. And let me see. Looks okay. Looks contrasty. I want to check. Now, because I didn't use red thread, obviously, I'm using permanent marker, red one. I'm coloring maybe 5 centimeters of it. If I need, I can color more. Take the CDC, but don't take the cartridge. Keep it flat. Break the rachis. What I mean by it, I mean this. Kind of shape it. And now I'll just take and repeat the process of pulling all those together, CDCs. Keep everything on the top of the hook. Counterspin the bobbin holder. You want your thread to bite, so not to make it flat, but a little bit after flat, so twist it a little bit. You want your thread to bite into CDC. 1, 2. Position everything where you want it and go backwards, creating relatively flat head. So you can see that there is some space, and without running my thread towards the eye, I want to pull very taut these tips. I want to pull them, and again you need twisted thread for this one. 1, 2, because it will bite. It won't slide down. And keep the tension. 3. It's a thin thread, so I can have a little bit more twists here. But this time it flattened a little bit, so I can create okay web finish. And I pull strong. The thread will change a little bit color, and that's it. It's very good. You can add some varnish if you wish, but it's not necessary. And then pull, create tension, press the blade, and that's it. So if you want your fly to look more neat, you can obviously cut these short barbs, but they provide a little bit more movement to everything, a little bit more buoyancy, and it just looks better like this. But for the purpose of the video, I'll just go and snip those. I mean, if you want to make it neat and bother with that, you can just do it. It's fine. Yeah, that's it. So guys, I hope you liked this video, and hope to see you next time.